What's going on, my fellow nerds and boys and girls? Welcome to the Calibrate Show. This is episode 2 of the Olivet Discourse as we're studying the prophecies of the end times as given by the Bible, by God himself, the big man upstairs. My name is Hunter France. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome back. Did you enjoy the intro? I sure hope so. All right, so today we're going to get into the Olivet Discourse. We're going to start in Matthew 24 verses 3 through 6. I'll have it on your screen for you to kind of look at and read through. Leave it up there for just a moment. Now, we're going to highlight the fact that Jesus starts this off with warning about being deceived. Now, there's multiple ways we can be deceived, but today I want to talk about one in particular, and that is the issue of preterism within the church, specifically, again, the Western church. Now, preterism, if you don't know what it is, the simplest way I can put it, it's the belief that all of, or if not all of, then at least most of prophecy in the Olivet Discourse and the book of Revelation was fulfilled in 70 AD. And I say thee, nay! It was not fulfilled in 70 AD. And I'm going to go through those reasons. But before we do that, I actually want to give you a little backdrop into the Olivet Discourse. So if you've noticed right there in the beginning of verse 3, it's sparked by a question. So the Olivet Discourse is not some sermon that Jesus got together with his disciples on a Sunday and was like, hey guys, get in the pews. I want to talk about the end times today. No, they actually ask him the question. I call it the question. And it's a 3-part question. Oh, my computer's going off. I need those notes. It's a 3-part question. It's, when are these things going to happen? What is the sign of your coming? And what is the sign of the end of the age? So that kind of shows us that at this point now in Jesus' ministry, the disciples were aware that he was leaving. They weren't aware that he was going to the cross, but they were aware that he was leaving. He was going to be with the Father, and they couldn't follow him where he was going. But they also knew he was coming back. And this question doesn't just come out of the blue. There are events that precede this teaching that actually spark the question. I just want to go through it real briefly. So if you're in Matthew 22 and 23, Jesus, and you see this elsewhere too in John and Luke, he's entering Jerusalem riding on a donkey. So actually, put yourself in their shoes, right? You're following this guy around. He's a fiery prophet. He's actually more than a prophet. He's claimed the title Son of Man several times, which is a title that denotes deity. Yeah, it's a human title, but it's a deity title from Daniel, the Son of Man, riding on clouds. The Bar Anashas, I think that's the Aramaic term. He's now entering the temple. He's cursed a fig tree. It's withered. He's entering the temple. He's made a whip out of leather, and he's whipping people. Ouch. He's whipping people out, overturning tables, creating a ruckus. He's now in confrontation with all of the religious leaders of Israel, which were like the leaders of Israel at this point, under Rome, of course. He's in Matthew 23, he has decreed woes on them, which is essentially he is damning them. He's putting a curse on them. He's prophesying their bloodshed, and he's prophesying the destruction of the temple. And I mean, that's heavy. This is the Jesus who has already healed people. He's let people see the Lamb has been walking. He's raised 2 people up from the dead. He's claimed to be the resurrection. So all of this, and now he's teaching the disciples that he's leaving. They are aware of the end times because they were Old Testament literate. They knew the prophets. They knew that there was a coming king on the clouds and there was going to be a kingdom, a literal kingdom. And they ask him about it, right? So now that they ask him about it, we can now really get into the discourse itself, but we're going to start right there at the beginning where Jesus does at deception. And today we're going to specifically talk about 70 AD and whether or not it does. And like I said earlier, nay, no, it doesn't. I'm going to give you 3 reasons. Now, there are more than 3 reasons, but I'm just going to give you 3 because I think they're probably, at least to me, these are reasons that you can't debate, right? So Jesus, after he goes through the first few verses of the Olivet Discourse, he's giving some vague stuff, a bit of mysterious things. But he comes to a specific sign. And it's actually the sign of the end of the age, right? Remember, he just got through saying you're going to see wars, rumors of wars, plagues, all this stuff. Guys, don't be alarmed. The end is not yet. This stuff is going to go on for thousands of years. But when he gets to the abomination of desolation, he specifically references the book of Daniel. Now, that's number one, the abomination of desolation. Now, our preterist brothers and sisters will sit there and tell you that the destruction of the temple that Jesus did prophesy in chapter 23 literally fulfills this. But I ask you, have you read the book of Daniel? Because the book of Daniel, when it comes to the abomination of desolation, is, I'll give you little 3 criteria. The abomination of desolation. Get my notes, because note takers are history makers. The abomination of desolation is a prophecy from Daniel about a man, a little horn. It's a man who becomes a world leader who stands in a temple and blasphemes God in a temple. It's another reason I believe that there's actually an end times temple. Yes, our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, but there is going to be a literal temple that will be built in the end times. So, oh, and by the way, to back that up, you also read this from Paul in 2 Thessalonians, chapter 2, right? 2 Thessalonians. This is New Testament stuff, Paul, right? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, go read it. He talks about the same thing Jesus is talking about here. By the way, side note, Daniel 8, preterists would say this, but there's a group of people that would say this really in the church, that all of Daniel 8 was fulfilled by a guy named Antiochus Epiphanes or Antiochus. I don't really know how to pronounce the first name. I'm an American, so my pronunciations are a little off. I'm also from the South. Ain't that right, Heath?
Shut up.
That's right. I'm from the South, and we get a little crazy down here. So with our English language. English is my second language, by the way. I don't have a first language. Maybe you can just call it American. But Daniel 8, they'll tell you it was fulfilled by this guy. It wasn't. Here's Jesus right here, hundreds of years after this Antiochus died, and he's quoting it as future. He says, when you see it, and then Paul quotes it as future. So if you actually have been taught that Daniel 8 was all fulfilled by Epiphanes, Jesus and Paul disagree with you. Okay? Fair enough? All right. So that's reason number 1. So reason number 2. The age-ending persecution of the saints, which are believers in the Messiah. This also includes the Jews of Israel, because it's the time of Jacob's trouble, results in, number 2, the visible return of Jesus. It's not some secret. It's not spiritual, which is interesting. So preterists would tell you, at least full preterists or partial preterists would tell you, that the destruction of the temple is a literal fulfillment of abomination of desolation, but that the return of Jesus is spiritual. And I have to ask the question, where in the text do you get that? Because there's nothing in the text, there's nothing in the language here that says it switches. There's no context clues, there's nothing, guys. It's a visible return. And actually, I can show you in the text why. Matthew 24, verse 27, Jesus is like telling them, it's like, guys, if anyone says he's over here in the inner rooms or he's out in the wilderness, don't believe him. Don't believe him. Because my coming will be like the sun goes from east to the west. Your translation, in fact, all English translations that I've come across say lightning. It's actually a mistranslation. Yes, I know there's some hardcore KJV people out there that believe it's the only one, but it too says lightning. Guys, it's the sun. So ask yourself the question, does lightning, when it flashes, does it go from east to west? Or does it kind of go all over the place like ramen noodles? It kind of goes all over the place, doesn't it? But he's actually referencing the sun. So as the sun goes from east to the west, and I believe it's the prophet Isaiah that actually says his glory fills the heavens. Actually, he's not even the only prophet. I think Habakkuk says this. His glory fills the entire heavens. And so when the sun goes from east to west, when it's high in the sky, what's it do? Its light fills the heavens, at least from our perspective, right? From the earth looking up. It fills everything, fills the whole sky. It's a visible return. And it's all over the prophets. You can even look at this in Revelation 1:7, right? He's coming on the clouds, and every eye will see him. I don't understand where you make that spiritual. I can't find it in the text anywhere. In fact, when I used to study this stuff over a decade ago, I would listen to these teachers saying it was spiritual, and I believed it. But then when I would go and read the word for myself, it just didn't make sense. Like, I honestly would just think that they were just way smarter than me, and I just have to rely on my teachers. The truth is, guys, the Bible wasn't written for the supremely intelligent. It was written for the humble at heart, who have a simple mind, that are just going to read it with childlike faith and take it for what it says. He's coming on the clouds, and every eye will see him. One of my favorite verses is Ezekiel 17. Now, I won't actually give you the verse. I'll give you the whole chapter so you'll read it in context, just like everything else. But it's in Ezekiel 17, and Ezekiel sees people peeing themselves at the sight of the coming of the Son of Man. They're urinating. If his return was spiritual, what's causing them to urinate? Because they're seeing something that's terrifying them, right? Anyway, they peed their pants. Reason number 3 is the millennial reign of Christ. When he returns visibly and he marches into Jerusalem coming up from Edom, this is in Isaiah, he's covered in the blood of his enemies. He's like watching him walk in. He sits on the throne and he ushers in an era of world peace where he establishes the kingdom. And remember, the disciples, when they are looking at the resurrected Jesus, they ask him, are you restoring the kingdom now? And Jesus doesn't say no, it's already here spiritually. He says, not yet. It's not for you to even know that time. Go out and, preach the gospel to the nations. Which means the time is coming where there's a literal kingdom that he restores on the earth. He restores Eden. And in this time period, there's no more war, no more crime, no more depression and anxiety. There's no more heartbreak. There's no more divorce. There's no more tension headaches. No more waking up feeling like you didn't sleep. No more stress. Nada. It's over. All the suffering is done. Can I ask you a question? Have you looked at society today? Heath, have you looked at society today?
No.
He's back here playing Pikmin.
Never.
He has never looked at society, if you didn't hear him. Guys, these things are still going on. There's war in Ukraine. There's war always in the Middle East. This stuff is still happening. Jerusalem is being surrounded by her enemies. War is still happening. There's racial conflict. And Jesus said, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. The word for nation that he's using there is actually the word ethnos, which is ethnicity. There's ethnic conflicts still happening today, right? Just as Jesus said it would. Still happening. So no, the millennial reign is not here yet. And if we're spiritualizing this, we're essentially saying that this time period is not coming. We're calling God a liar because he is literally telling us this is going to happen. He will come on the clouds in power and glory, which means light. Everyone will see him. And he will usher in an era of world peace. So let's go through these real quick. No abomination of desolation. No man standing in the temple blaspheming God. No fulfillment of the end times prophecy or the Olivet Discourse. No visible return of Jesus on the clouds where everyone sees him. You don't have fulfillment. No millennial reign of Christ where no more war is happening and there's no more suffering or pain or death. You don't have fulfillment. Now, there's a number of other reasons. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you a fourth. It's a little bonus one for you, all right? The very existence that we are having this debate or that this debate exists is proof that it hasn't happened yet. I'll tell you why. In the book of Revelation, you get to the trumpets. When you get to the final trumpet, the last trumpet, the seventh trumpet in the book of Revelation, the mystery of God gets revealed. Now, a lot of brothers and sisters, not even preterists, but there'll be the question of, well, what about First Colossians? And I actually had to pull it up and save it here, but in Colossians 1, Paul talks about the mystery getting revealed to us. And I honestly believe that the revealing is, this is a belief, I believe the revealing he is talking about is that Jesus is the Messiah. He is the one that is promised to come on the clouds and restore the kingdom, restore Eden, do everything we just talked about. And I had to go grab this because I couldn't remember where it was, but first and foremost, the book of Revelation, that seventh trumpet was written long after Paul, and again, it's saying the mystery of God will be revealed. But Paul's saying it's already revealed. So I don't think he's actually saying it's like the fullness of it is revealed. Why? So I went to go find this. It's 1 Corinthians. I'm going to give you the verse on this one, right? Because I had to look it up to get the specific one. But it's 1 Corinthians verse 12. I've got 3 different versions on your screen. I'm going to read, though, from the Message version because I think it just kind of goes a little deeper. It's almost like I'm saying it to you, but I'm really reading it for all of us. I'm not really a big fan of the Message version, but here I actually believe they do get this right. So I've got the KJV, the NLT, the ESV. Actually, I'll put 4 up, and I put the NIV up there for you to read. It says, This is the Message version I'm reading. We don't see things clearly. We're squinting in a fog, peering through a mist, but it won't be long before the weather clears and the sun shines bright. We'll see it all then, see it all as clearly as God sees us, knowing him directly, just as he knows us. So in these other verses, it says face to face, right? So for anyone, again, who is spiritualizing this stuff, Paul is sitting here saying we're going to see him face to face. And for some of you KJV, like hardcore KJV readers out there, even in the KJV, it says it, face to face. We're going to see him face to face. Our superhero, ultra mega, manga, comic book, Super Saiyan, Saitama, Superman, hero, Jesus coming in clouds, shaking the earth, saving his people, destroying evil once and for all. Is going to be great. Hallelujah. About to go to church. Guys, I'm actually going to end it there. I think I've made my point. There's a lot of reasons, like I said earlier, that 7 AD does not fulfill this prophecy. It does fulfill prophecy, by the way, because, like I said, Jesus does say it'll be destroyed. I do believe it fulfills the Hosea 3-day prophecy, although the third day hasn't happened yet. We're approaching that third day. And we'll do a teaching on Hosea at some point. I'm actually going to put a link for a documentary about that, but I'm still going to teach one here on the channel. But anyway, I'll wrap it up there. I love you guys, boys and girls, all of you lovely nerds out there. Come on back, come join the study, come watch the reactions and the stuff we do here in the future. Until then, Maranatha.